Welcome bookworms and book lovers. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. My name is Kathleen and I'm here to share all the books that I want to read this October for spooky season. I have a lot of spooky reads on here that I'm super excited to read this month, and I'm going to share all the books on my TBR with you. I have to admit that this is a pretty ambitious TBR since it's going to be about 14 books that I'm trying to read this month. Oh my god, I can't believe it. But let's see how well I do. Let's see how many books I can read this month. So the first book on my TBR is Dracula, which for a person that loves vampires, who's read Interview with the Vampire, Vampire Lestat, Twilight, you know, I've watched all the vampire movies. I've never read Dracula, and that I think is a mortal sin since I consider myself like vampire lover. So I'm going to correct that wrong and I'm going to read Dracula this month. And I'm super excited about it. I'm predicting 5 stars and I'm super excited about it. So let's dig into what it's about a little bit. So it says fledgling lawyer Jonathan Harker treks to the Carpathian Mountains to see his client, the elderly and gaunt Count Dracula. The Count is fascinated by Harker's life in London, and it soon becomes clear that Count Dracula has his own plans for the teeming city. So yeah, can't wait to get into this. The second book that I have on my TBR this month is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas, and this, from the little bit that I know, has a little bit of a spooky kind of house theme, which kind of fits into my theme of this month where I'm reading a lot about haunted, spooky houses, because I normally don't read those books, but I just wanted to try and experiment more and test the waters in that and venture into that little, I guess, genre of spooky houses, haunted houses. So I thought this would be perfect to add to my TBR this month. So this book is about, it says, during the overthrow of the Mexican government, Beatrice's father was executed and her home destroyed. When handsome Don Rodolfo Soranzo proposes, Beatrice ignores the rumors surrounding his first wife's sudden demise, choosing instead to seize the opportunity that his estate in the countryside provides. She will have her own home again no matter the cost. But Hacienda San Isidoro is not the sanctuary she imagined. When Rodolfo returns to work in the capital, visions and voices invade Beatrice's sleep. The weight of invisible eyes follow her every move. Rodolfo's sister, Juana, scoffs at Beatrice's fears. But why does she refuse to enter the house at night? Why does the cook burn copal incense at the edge of the kitchen and mark the doorway with strange symbols? What really happened to the first Doña Solorzano? Beatrice only knows 2 things for certain. Something is wrong with the hacienda, and no one there will save her. Desperate for help, she clings to the young priest, Padre Andres, as an ally. No ordinary priest, Andres will have to rely on his skills as a witch to fight off the malevolent presence haunting the hacienda and protect the woman for whom he feels a powerful, forbidden attraction. But even he might not be enough to battle the darkness. Far from a refuge, San Isidro may be Beatrice's doom. Sounds interesting. I'm predicting that this should be about maybe, because I've never read from her before, this is my first book by her, so I'm gonna say maybe a 4.5. Looking forward to reading this. This definitely gives spooky vibes. The next book on my October TBR, it's a nonfiction because I do like to try to read at least 1 to 2 or 3 nonfiction per month, just to broaden my little horizons there. And the nonfiction that I chose was Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. I'm excited for this. I just finished reading a David Grann book, The Wager, and it was a top tier experience. I loved my time there. It was great. So I'm excited to read this one, and I want to watch the movie that was made about this book as well. So this is about, in the 1920s, the richest people per capita in the world were members of the Osage Nation in Oklahoma. After oil was discovered beneath their land, they rode in chauffeured cars and lived in mansions. Then one by one, the Osage began to be killed. Molly Burkhart watched as her family became a prime target. Her relatives were shot and poisoned. Other Osage were also dying under mysterious circumstances, and many of those who investigated the crimes were themselves murdered. As the death toll rose, the case was taken up by the newly created FBI and its young secretive director, J. Edgar Hoover. Struggling to crack the mystery, Hoover turned to a former Texas Ranger named Tom White, who put together an undercover team, including a Native American agent. They infiltrated the last remnant of the Wild West, and together with the Osage began to expose one of the most chilling conspiracies in American history. So I'm predicting this is going to be 5 stars, purely from my experience from reading The Wager, and that it's not going to disappoint, it's not going to fail, and I'm going to enjoy my time here. So looking forward to this one. The next book on my list is also by Isabella Cañas, and it's Vampires of El Norte. And this goes along with the theme of vampires because I love vampires. I love vampire lore. I love the sparkly vampires. I love the villainous vampires and everything in between. I just love vampires. So this I thought would be perfect to read in October during spooky season. So this is about, as the daughter of a rancher in 1840s Mexico, Nina knows a thing or two about monsters. Her home has long been threatened by tensions with Anglo settlers from the north, but something more sinister lurks near the ranch at night, something that drains men of their blood and leaves them for dead, something that once attacked Nina 9 years ago. Believing Nina dead, Nestor has been on the run from his grief ever since, moving from ranch to ranch, working as a vaquero, but no amount of drink can dispel the night terrors of sharp teeth. No woman can erase his childhood sweetheart from his mind. When the United States invades Mexico in 1846, the two are brought abruptly together on the road to war. Nina, as a curandera, did I pronounce that right? Maybe. A healer striving to prove her worth to her father so that he does not marry her off to a stranger. And Nestor as a member of the auxiliary cavalry of ranchers and vaqueros. But the shock of the reunion and Nina's rage at Nestor for seemingly abandoning her long ago is quickly overshadowed by the appearance of a nightmare made flesh. And unless Nina and Nestor work through their past and face the future together, neither will survive to see the dawn. Whew. This sounds good. I'm predicting this to be a 4.5, and that I'm predicting that Isabel Cañas is going to be one of those authors that I add to my list of favorites. So I'm excited about this too. The next book that's on my TBR list for October. It's the only one left by Riley Sager. Okay, so I know with Riley Sager, you either love him or you hate him. It's either hit or miss. And I had one slam dunk hit when I read The House Across the Lake. I love The House Across the Lake. I know that it's not everyone's popular choice and there's a lot of mixed feelings about that, but The House Across the Lake worked for me. It was that girl. It slapped. But the last book that I read from him, the last time I lied, it didn't slap. It didn't hit for me. It was a miss. So I'm a little nervous about going into his world and reading another book, but I've seen nothing but good reviews for The Only One Left. And I really want to like Riley Sager. I really want him to be that author for me. So added this to my TBR for this month. In this book, it says, at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sisters with a rope. Now reduced to a schoolyard chant, the Hope family murders shocked the Maine coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assume 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the police were never able to prove it. Other than her denial after the killings, she has never spoken publicly about that night, nor has she set foot outside Hope's Inn, the cliffside mansion where the massacre occurred. stabbed her father with a knife, took her mother's happy life. It's now 1983, and home health aide Kit McDear arrives at a decaying Hope's Inn to care for Lenora after her previous nurse fled in the middle of the night in her 70s and confined to a wheelchair. Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes and can only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer. "I want to tell you everything." "It wasn't me," Lenora said, "but she's the only one not dead." As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear there's more to the tale than people know. But when new details about her predecessor's departure come to light, Kit starts to suspect Lenora may not be telling the complete truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she first thought. Ooh, does that not sound good? So we're going to be giving that a spin this month. Next is another Riley Sager, because I want to like this man so much. I really do. I want him to be that author for me. It's going to be Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, my next one on my list. And this one, it says, 25 years ago, Maggie Holt and her parents, Ewan and Jess, moved into Bainbury Hall, a rambling Victorian estate in the Vermont woods. 3 weeks later, they fled in the dead of night, an ordeal Ewan later recounted in a nonfiction book titled House of Horrors. His horror memoir of ghostly happenings and encounters with malevolent spirits became a worldwide phenomenon, rivaling the Amityville Horror in popularity and skepticism. Today, Maggie is a restorer of old homes and too young to remember any of the events mentioned in her father's book. But she also doesn't believe a word of it. Ghosts, after all, don't exist. When Maggie inherits Bainbury Hall after her father's death, she returns to renovate the place and prepare it for sale. But her homecoming is anything but warm. People from the past, chronicled in House of Horrors, lurk in the shadows, and locals aren't thrilled that their small town has been made infamous thanks to Maggie's father. Even more unnerving is Bainbury Hall itself, a place filled with relics from another era that hint at a history of dark deeds. As Maggie experiences strange occurrences straight out of her father's book, she starts to believe that what he wrote was more fact than fiction. That sound good? Yeah, so this is another one. So, I didn't say. So for the only one left, I'm predicting that this could possibly be either a 3.5 or a 4. I'm not going in with very, very high expectations, but I kind of have high expectations, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking that this is the same. It's either going to be a 3.5 or a 4. Time will tell. We'll see. And the next book on my TBR it's a library book that, man, I've had this for a while and I haven't returned it, and I really need to read it, and I really need to get her done so I can turn her back in. But it's The Guilt Trip by Sandy Jones. I mean, I love this cover. I think it's so beautiful. So this one, it says, Rachel and Jack, Paige and Noah, and Will, 5 friends who've known one another for years. Then along came Allie, Will's new fiance. The 3 couples traveled to Portugal for Allie and Will's destination wedding. The weekend away at the gorgeous clifftop villa is a chance to relax and get to know Allie a little better. She seems perfectly nice, and Will seems happy after years of bad choices. But when Rachel discovers a shocking secret about Allie, everything changes. As the wedding weekend unfolds, the secrets each of them holds begin to spill, and friendships and marriages threaten to unravel. Sounds like a lot of drama, which I love. I love secrets. I love lies. I love a little bit of drama. This is going to be interesting. But you know, the thing with domestic thrillers too, I've discovered, is they can go either way as well. Sometimes they're just a smash hit and it's like, bam, 5 stars. And other times it's like, very mid, very average. So I'm not going into this with high expectations. Yeah, I'm going to say this is going to be anywhere from a 3 to a 3.5, but that I'll likely enjoy the story. And yeah, so we'll see what happens with this one, if that one's a banger or not. So the next book I have it's a reread, don't judge me. But it's Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer. It's the reimagining of the Twilight situation where the roles are reversed, and basically it's if, how do I put it? It's if Bella were a male and Edward were a female. And I like the story. I read it before. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I love the Twilight series. Don't come for me. It is what it is. It's a silly, goofy time, and I love it. I eat every bit of it up. So I'm going to reread this year because I like the twist that this has compared to the original. And yeah, excited about this. So the rest of the books I'm planning to read are either ebooks, like books that I'm going to read on my Kindle through Kindle Unlimited, and there's a couple one that's on hold at the library, and there's one that I need to buy. So first up is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I struggle with names. Please forgive me if I'm pronouncing them wrong, please. But Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak, I want to read that one because everyone's talked about it. It's spooky season, and what better time to read a spooky book that's going to scare the living daylights out of you than now. Like, now is the freaking time. So it says, Hidden Pictures, a creepy and warm-hearted mystery about a woman working as a nanny for a young boy with strange and disturbing secrets. Fresh out of rehab, Mallory Quinn takes a job in the affluent suburb of Springbrook, New Jersey, as a babysitter for Ted and Carolyn Maxwell. She is to look after their 5-year-old son, Teddy. Mallory immediately loves this new job. She lives in the Maxwell's pool house, goes out for nightly runs, and has the stability she craves. And she sincerely bonds with Teddy, a sweet, shy boy who is never without his sketchbook and pencil. His drawings are the usual trees, rabbits, balloons. But one day, he draws something: a man in a forest, digging a woman's lifeless body. Or dragging a woman's lifeless body. As the days pass, Teddy's artwork becomes more and more sinister, and his stick figures steadily evolve into more detailed, complex, and lifelike sketches, well beyond the ability of any 5-year-old. Mallory begins to suspect these are glimpses of an unsolved murder from long ago, perhaps relayed by a supernatural force lingering in the forest behind the Maxwell's house. With help from a handsome landscaper and an eccentric neighbor, Mallory sets out to decipher the images and save Teddy while coming to terms with the tragedy in her own past before it's too late. Woo. It sounds good. It sounds spicy. I think that this, dare I say, will be, especially from the ratings on Goodreads, because it says it's a 4.16, dare I predict that this will be a 5-star? That this will be a banger? It'll be a 5-star? Yeah, I think this is going to be a 5-star. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, next on my list of books to read this month is Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. And this, I know, is a bit more of a dark thriller from what I've heard, but again, this is October, it's spooky season. What time is it to push the limits and boundaries of spooky, sinister, and creepy? If not now, then when? So, in this thriller, we meet Paris Peralta, is suspected of killing her celebrity husband, and her long-hidden past now threatens to destroy her future. When Paris Peralta is arrested in her own bathroom, covered in blood, holding a straight razor, her celebrity husband dead in the bathtub behind her, she knows she'll be charged with murder. But as bad as this looks, it's not what worries her the most. With the unwanted media attention now surrounding her, it's only a matter of time before someone from her long-hidden past recognizes her and destroys a new life she's worked so hard to build, along with any chance of a future. 25 years earlier, Ruby Reyes, known as the Ice Queen, was convicted of a similar murder in a trial that riveted Canada in the early 90s. Reyes knows who Paris really is, and when she's unexpectedly released from prison, she threatens to expose all of Paris's secrets. Left with no other choice, Paris must finally confront the dark past she escaped once and for all, because the only thing worse than a murder charge are 2 murder charges. Secrets, drama, like, give it to me. What do I predict this will be? know. I'm gonna say maybe a 3.5. I'm not gonna place high expectations and like build this up as some great big thing. I'm gonna say it's either gonna be a 3.5, possibly potentially a 4. So we'll see. All right, so the next read on my October TBR it's a little light, fluffy romance because, you know, we need to balance all this dark suspense, mystery, sinister. Like, we need to balance all the scary with something light and fluffy, you know, give the girl a break. So I decided to add Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez to my list this month. And so Yours Truly, it says it is about Dr. Brianna Ortiz's life is seriously flatlining. Her divorce is just about finalized. Her brother's running out of time to find a kidney donor. And that promotion she wants? Oh, that's probably going to the new man doctor who's already registering 87 on Brianna's pain in my ass scale. But just when all symptoms are set to hate, Dr. Jacob Mattis completely flips the game by sending Brianna a letter, and it's a really good letter, like the kind that proves that Jacob isn't actually Satan. Worse, he might be this fantastically funny and subversively likable guy who's terrible at first impressions, because suddenly he and Brie are exchanging letters, sharing lunch dates in her sob closet, and discussing the merits of freakishly tiny horses. But when Jacob decides to give Brianna the best gift imaginable, a kidney for her brother, she wonders, just how can she resist this quietly sexy new doctor, especially when he calls in a favor she can't refuse. Ooh. This comes really high. The ratings are really high on Goodreads too. This is a 4.32, so I think I'm going to have a delicious time. And I'm going to go ahead and predict that this is going to be a 5-star. So, bam. And next on my TBR for the month is a book that I found on Kindle Unlimited that sounded really interesting. It's called The House of Lost Secrets by Anstey Harris. And this book is about, it says, the book description says, she thought she knew her best friend. She was wrong. The weather-worn cottage, Cawshan has always been Joe Wilding's sanctuary, a blissful escape from her tumultuous home life. From the first summer Rachel invited her to join the Willoughby family in the wilds of Scotland, she fell in love with the sea air, sandy beach, and Tristan, Rachel's older brother. All these years later, Clacton is where their most important occasions and conversations take place. So when Rachel organizes a weekend there, Joe never suspects that this weekend will change everything. Because it turns out Rachel has been keeping a secret, a betrayal that plunges Joe into a past she spent years trying to forget. Left to untangle the pieces of their past alone, Joe has to decide if there is such a thing as forgiveness when there is no one left to forgive. This sounds like it's going to be very emotional. It's going to be sad. So this is a general fiction. It comes highly rated on Goodreads. It's a 4.06. So I think I'm not going to build my hopes up too high because I always do that and then I get disappointed. So I'm going to say this is going to be about a 4.5, and that it's going to be an emotional one. So yeah. Okay, so the last 2 books are going to be nonfiction. So October is the month for ADHD awareness, and I like to educate myself through what I read. I like to celebrate different things through what I read, and I thought what perfect way to celebrate ADHD Awareness Month by reading books tailored towards people with ADHD and that explain ADHD and dig deep into that, especially with me, a person who is neurodivergent and has ADHD. I thought this would be the perfect time to explore that. So I decided this would be the perfect time to pick up How to ADHD by Jessica McCabe. She is a YouTuber that talks all about ADHD, gives tips and advice on how to better manage your life and live with this condition in a way that you can still be fulfilled and just live happy and not live a second-rate life. And she wrote this book, and I want to support her, and I want to read this book and get all that I can get from it and learn things that I can apply to my own life to improve my own life. So The description for this book is, in this honest, friendly, and shame-free guide, the creator of the award-winning YouTube channel, How to ADHD, shares the hard-won insights and practical strategies that have helped her survive, even thrive, in a world not built for her brain. Forget try harder. When your brain works differently, you need to try different. Diagnosed with ADHD at age 12, Jessica struggled with a brain that she didn't understand. She lost things constantly, couldn't finish projects, and felt like she was putting more effort in than everyone around her while falling further and further behind. At 32 years old, broke, divorced, and living with her mom, Jessica decided to look more deeply into her ADHD challenges. She reached out to experts, devoured articles, and shared her discoveries on YouTube. In How to ADHD, Jessica reveals the tools that have changed her life while offering an unflinching look at the realities of living with ADHD. The key to navigating a world not built for the neurodivergent brain, she discovered, isn't to fix or fight against its natural tendencies, but to understand and work with them. She explained how ADHD affects everyday life, covering executive function impairments, rejection sensitivity, difficulties with attention regulation, and more. You'll also find ADHD-specific strategies for adapting your environment, routines, and systems. So, I'm definitely excited to read this. To learn more about how I can better manage my ADHD, because sometimes I feel sometimes I could do better than what I'm doing. I think this would be a great book to read this month to celebrate ADHD Awareness Month. And the last book that I'm going to read this month is also about ADHD. I found this interesting and compelling. It's called Scattered Minds by Gabor Mate, and it is about, it says, Scattered Minds explodes the myth of attention deficit disorder as genetically based, and offers real hope and advice for children and adults who live with the condition. Gabor Mate is a revered physician who specializes in neurology, psychiatry, and psychology, and himself has ADD. With wisdom gained through years of medical practice and research, Scattered Minds is a must-read for parents and for anyone interested. How experiences in infancy shape the biology and the psychology of the human brain. Scattered Minds demonstrates that ADD is not an inherited illness, but a reversible impairment and developmental delay. Explains that in ADD, circuits in the brain whose job is emotional self-regulation and attention control fail to develop in infancy, and why. Shows how distractibility is a psychological product of life experiences. Allows parents to understand what makes their ADD children tick, and adults with ADD to gain insights into their emotions and behaviors. Expresses optimism about neurological development even in adulthood. Presents a program of how to promote this development in both children and adults. So this sounds really interesting. It sounds like he has some different takes on what we normally think about ADHD and ADD and those kind of things. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say. And I have this on hold of the library. Hopefully it releases this month, but if not, that's completely okay. We can always pick it up and read it some other time. So those are all the books that I plan to read this October. Are any of these books, have you read them? Are you interested in reading them? Do you have them on your TBR for this month, for spooky season? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!